afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Box, another fine-filled edition where the only opinion that matters is the one right here. Bringing him back again for the show again is Steve the Chief Pyfrin. Steve, thanks for coming out
Hello,
today.
buddy.
We're going to talk a little bit. Let's get right to it, Steve. We're talking some nice topics going on today. Nationwide topic and a big topic around here is obviously the Eagles signing of Tim Tebow. Personally, I think this is a dumb signing, only because you're signing a third-string quarterback and you have other needs to fill right now. There aren't a lot of people out there you can sign to, obviously, a safety, the offensive line, linebacker, which the Eagles need. But I just don't think the Tim Tebow signing is a good sign right now. It's not like anybody's beating the guy's door down. He hasn't played in 2 years, and when he did play, he wasn't that good. He did win a playoff game, but people got to remember, the one pass he threw in that game, 20-yard pass, the receiver ran 60 yards, so it wasn't like he moved them down the field itself. I just think, in the grand scheme of things, Steve, with the Tim Tebow signing, it just seems like it's an attention getter. What do you think?
Well, that partially could be true, but I mean, you have to remember also, number one, we'll see what kind of role he even plays.
Yeah.
He's not actually guaranteed a roster spot. They gave him a one-year deal. He probably going to keep him around if they brought him at this point in the game. But I think, my personal opinion is I think they're going to use him in a lot of gadget-type plays inside the 10-yard line where they struggled last year in the red zone. However, we'll see what kind of role. I mean, he has to make the team first, which probably they're going to throw Barkley to the side. But, is it going to hurt anything? I don't think it's going to hurt anything. The only damaging thing would be the distraction that he could cause by being there, but that's not his fault. That's just because people want to talk about Tim Tebow.
And I agree to that, but the thing is, with the whole Tebow thing, and you say he might not have a roster spot, that's fine, but then why bring him in? That's a mystery to me with Chip Kelly. I just don't know whether to understand that move.
I guess you say why bring him in, why not bring him in? If he's someone that Chip Kelly really wanted to have on the team, then bring him in now. It probably doesn't cost you any more than if you're going to bring him in, say, after the draft. You might as well just sign him to whatever deal he got. Which I didn't even hear if they announced the terms of the deal. I didn't hear that.
No, I just heard a one-year deal. I didn't hear the money yet.
Okay.
And listen, a lot of people out there, talking to some buddies on the street, and people are writing in. Tim Tebow could be the greatest guy in the world. Obviously, I've never met him, but he could be a great guy. He's big on religion. That's great. But he's hired for the Eagles to play football, and that's what we're rating him on. When it comes to being a quarterback, he has one of the lowest quarterback ratings in the league for the time that he played the last 3 years. So keep that in mind. He hasn't played in 2 years. If he was any kind of good, my opinion is he would have been signed by somebody. That's where you got the big hang-up of Tim Tebow. But, Steve, like you said, we will see. It'll be very interesting with this circus going on in the next 2 weeks. Before the draft, you bring Tim Tebow in. But that's fine. Next, we're going to move on to a little bit of Adrian Peterson. He was out of the news for a while. He's back in. He was reinstated a couple days ago. Very interesting about Adrian Peterson. I think he could go to a couple different teams. I think personally he could probably end up in Dallas or he can end up in Oakland. Oakland has had interest in him since they got rid of McFadden, and they haven't really, with Jones Drew, hasn't really worked out for them. But I don't know, Steve. Adrian Peterson, that's an interesting case. He wants to get out of Minnesota, but they do not want to trade him. They've said that they do not want to trade him. But
they're gonna, they may just hold on to him if someone gives them an offer they can't refuse. Minnesota isn't. They're not so far down in the dumps where they can make a run at it at anything next year.
And he did pick up Michael Wallace in the trade.
You're not going to compete with the Packers in their division. Nope. It's a tough division, so they're going to need every bit of help they can get. So they may want to hold on to him. Based on obviously what he was suspended for, some teams may shy away from him. Obviously, Dallas is not going to be one of those teams. But we'll see what happens. But I think he could go anywhere he wants to go. But do the teams want him? That's quite.
See, I think Dallas could be an opportunity. Whether it will be or not, it's probably a low percentage shot. But I think that with the loss of DeMarco Murray and then bringing in McFadden, I mean, we talked about before, McFadden, he can't stay healthy. Good running back, but he just can't stay healthy for some reason.
Yeah. He
could be a good complementary back if they can make the numbers work for Adrian Peterson, and that's to be determined too. So
right. I mean, the thing about a veteran running back like Peterson, he's not going to be very likely to go to a team like Oakland. He's going to have a short list of teams that he's going to go to.
And he wants to win,
the teams with Super Bowl aspirations, things like that.
Yep, absolutely.
And so that you could probably cross, 10 to 15 teams off the list kind of thing.
That's true. And speaking of that, we are going to have the draft special on next week. So keep in mind, next week when we have the sports box, I will name it for you guys. We'll have the panel here. We'll talk about the draft. We'll break down every team for you. That'll be a good time. Going to go quickly to the NHL real quick for the fans out there that watch hockey like myself. If anybody watched the Ottawa-Montreal game last night, it just, Ottawa I thought they were going to have a chance in this series, but it looks like Montreal is going to take it down with a 3-0 lead. But last night with the hand pass by the Montreal Canadiens player and not being called right away, and then Montreal scoring was a heartbreaker for Ottawa. They go down 3-0. I don't think there's a way they come back in this series. In the Nashville-Chicago game, again, one of my teams was Nashville to come alive. With the loss of Shea Weber and the injury, I just don't think Nashville has the firepower to stop Chicago. Chicago looks like they're clicking on all 4 cylinders or all 8 cylinders. And with the backup goaltender in too, I mean Crawford's not even in a goal. They have a backup goaltender, and I mean they're still winning games. And got to talk about Calgary. Johnny Gaudreau, local kid from the area. Calgary playing well. Johnny Gaudreau another assist last night, beating the mighty Vancouver Canucks. They're up 2-1 series. That should be an interesting series. I really think Calgary has a chance now going back home again or staying home again for the Game 4. Definitely could be very interesting. Steve, we're going to jump over to the NBA real quick.
Right.
In Friday night's games, we wanted to get back to that with some of the wins that were surprising and talk about a couple games. The Washington Wizards beating the Raptors, and that was a shock to me. The Raptors have been playing well at the end of the year, and the Wizards coming up big in that first game.
Yeah, well, you got Paul Pierce, and he's always going to help them out, being the veteran player that he is. But in terms of the East, you got Atlanta and you have Cleveland. They're basic locks. Yep. Those other series could really go either way. It wouldn't shock me if that went one direction.
I definitely think after seeing Atlanta beat the Nets the other night with Kyle Korver. That's right, folks. Kyle Korver having a 3-point fiasco, 5 for 11. And he had a total of 21 points to lead the Hawks in scoring. I think the Hawks can make some noise. Like you said, whether or not they're going to get to the finals is.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I haven't watched them a lot this year, but I did watch the game the other night, and they're a very talented roster of guys you just don't really know that well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Korver, obviously, with his Philadelphia roots,
yep.
Most people around here are familiar with him, but they just have a lot of really good. They've drafted well, and
Al Horford's playing real well.
Yeah, he's been around for a while, but they just have they're a really deep team.
Yep.
And they may be a little better than people think. Obviously, without the being so familiar with the players they have, people probably are just like, Cleveland, LeBron James, give it to them, but they may put up a pretty good fight, even better than I probably initially thought.
And the other games that I have, the other winners that I have in there, Golden State again. What can you say about Golden State? It's the Steph Curry show with that. Chicago, hey, Derrick Rose back. He looks pretty good against the Milwaukee Bucks. People had issues of his knee and him coming back from that injury. He looks really, really good right now. So Chicago could be in there. And Houston beating Dallas.
Right.
A little bit of a shocker there. Dallas, I think, could have hung with them for a little while, but Houston's
Houston's got a lot of firepower.
Yep.
And I tell you, I mean, Golden State, all you hear is the shooting and their offense and how tough they are at home. But I tell you, they can play some defense.
Yes.
And the Pelicans had a lot of trouble scoring, and I don't think that's going to change. I think their defense is really underrated, and that may allow them to really come out of the West. But that's going to really be. I mean, 1 through 7 wouldn't surprise me. Whoever comes out of the West, because they're just that good.
Obviously, Cleveland, you expected them to do what they're doing right now, and in Memphis, they're a good, solid team, beating up the Trailblazers a little bit. And the last one I'm going to say is the Clippers. Clippers, it's going to be interesting to see what the Clippers do. Chris Paul hasn't been known for his playoff, history in the past, and Blake Griffin looked like the Blake Griffin of old. So it's going to be they're I think one of the better teams on paper. The Clippers, I think they can go far as well.
Right. But I won't count the Spurs out until they have 4 losses.
Exactly. I was just going to say that the Spurs. They supposedly there was a stat that came out today. They were 6-18 in playoffs when they lose the first game. But you know what, Steve? I ain't buying it.
Right.
The Spurs are the Spurs, and they just absolutely get it done.
Yeah, I mean they've used Tim Duncan really well.
Yep.
Maybe only 20 to 25 minutes during the year, so he's fresh, and he'll be back the next game, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. Our last note is the baseball. We want to get to that a little bit. We're going to touch on that next week a little bit more in depth with more teams. But in the American League, hats off to Detroit, 10-2, off to a good start. Kansas City playing well at 9-3. Yankees, shocker,
right.
6-6. They were supposed to be awful this year, but they've somehow holding it together right now. They're playing well. And the biggest shocker, I think, in the American League right now is the Houston Astros. Houston was awful last year and didn't do much to change their team. They're off to a good start leading the West, and I know it's early, and I know a lot of those teams only have 6 and 5 wins, but they definitely are a team to look out for, a young team. And then can you just say METS, Mets, Mets?
That's definitely
10-3.
Yeah, the Mets look unbelievable, I have to admit.
Yeah, that's a big shout out to my friend Lane L, who's been a hardcore Mets fan for a long time. So, hey, take it while you can get it, Lane. They're playing well right now. Atlanta Braves 8-4. I heard a lot of rumblings. Atlanta wasn't going to be there. They're so far they're holding their own right now, and they're playing pretty decent. Dodgers, hey, J-Roll, I guess put them over the top, right? The Dodgers 9-3, playing well right now. Gonzalez having a very good year with them. And St. Louis up there again. But the biggest shock in the National League, and I think in baseball right now, Steve, is the defending champs. 4-10 to start the season.
They've had a lot of years where they really don't do very well until the All-Star break, and then they just turn it on and cruise. So, but if you look at the years after they win the World Series, sometimes they have a little bit of a down year, but I think they'll be there in the end, whether they go wild card or division. I don't know, that might be tough this year with the Dodgers being as good as they are, but they'll be back and they'll compete.
They definitely have some top-notch pitchers to get the job done, so I agree with that. Now let's go to our mailbag real quick, just answer a couple questions. A couple questions have come in to the Sports Box, and I appreciate it. Keep them coming. We're just going to save some football questions till we have the draft special so we can get you a little bit more. The one question, or actually two questions I have, is from Calvin Howard. He would say, he talks about Jameis Winston as a first overall pick, whereas I said I think Mariota should be the first pick. Jameis Winston, I wanted to get to real quick with the whole allegations. He's in another civil lawsuit. The whole 2012 lawsuit that he had before that wasn't accused of it, the girl is now putting a civil suit against him, which I hopefully doesn't bring up a lot of distractions, a lot of baggage for him. I think he's a very good pro-rated quarterback. I think he is actually a little bit better than Mariota. I just don't know about the off-season issues. I just don't know about that.
I think what that lawsuit may do, it may make a lot of things public that weren't previously. Mm-hmm. So that could be a little bit of a distraction for him. But obviously that lawsuit was very well planned. She brought this out right before the draft, probably hoping for some kind of out-of-court settlement.
I definitely think it's all about the money. She's an NFL quarterback now, and he's going to have some money so she wants to get paid. I understand that. And the last question we have is from Murtada. He wanted to know why we don't discuss any European soccer. And I think I can speak for Steve in itself, too. We don't know a lot of European soccer. If we do get a call for it, I'll start studying up on it.
They have soccer in Europe?
They do have soccer in Europe. Okay. Yes, they do. Yeah. And a team called Manchester United.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if we start getting some letters from people and saying, why don't you discuss it, I'll start looking up the teams. I'll start giving you analysis. It's no problem.
On a serious note, the enthusiasm for soccer, especially with the kids today, is really completely off the charts.
Yep, especially in this town, Hammonton, that we live in right now.
One thing that really hasn't changed, I mean, with the Philadelphia Union, we see a little more support for the pro games, but they've just never been able to get any of those leagues anywhere close to the major sports.
Right.
Maybe that'll change in 20 years when the kids that are playing the games get older and are more into it, but these, I don't know, there's just not a lot of enthusiasm.
We also had a call for college sports, and we are going to get into college basketball and football when they come around. We're going to talk a little bit about college baseball. We're only going to talk about that during the Final Four, and then when they actually go to the World Series, we'll discuss that a little bit. But again, I appreciate your input, questions, anything you want to say. You want to say how the show is, you want to say how Steve's hat, whatever it is. Let us know here at the Sports Box. M. Galetta at Comcast.net. That's the way to go. We're out of time right now in the Sports Box. Keep an eye out for the NFL draft preview and the NFL basketball issue. Subscribe to it. You'll like it. See ya.